everyone. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry this week's lesson is a little bit late. It's getting kind of busy at work, so sorry about that. Now, today's lesson is really two lessons combined. So we're going to look at how to interpret the meaning of words and phrases using context, and also determine the denotative meaning of words. Now, these two lessons have very similar objectives, and the second lesson can be covered by the first lesson. So I'm going to combine them together. And here are the learning objectives. You need to be able to identify the correct definition of a word. So you may not have a dictionary available, but based on the context, based on some other clues, hints, you need to be able to identify the correct definition of the word. You need to be able to distinguish between figurative and connotative meanings, recognize the cumulative effect of a specific word choice on meaning, and also identify a source to find vocabulary definitions. So you may see a question like, based on the context of the passage, which of the following is the meaning of a particular word? So it could be any word from the text. Usually it's a word that you don't see a lot. And second, which of the following phrases provide a context clue to the meaning of the word? Again, it's going to give you a word that's not very common. And based on the context, hints and clues given by the writer, you can guess what the word means. And next, which of the following figurative devices is used in this particular sentence, a sentence from the passage? And these are the common figures of speech, metaphor, simile, and personification. Now, the T study menu also includes denotation and connotation, so I also list those two here. All right, so here are some tips on how to identify the correct definition of a word. So first, you can use root words, prefixes, and suffixes. Now, if you have taken an anatomy and physiology class, you probably have learned that a lot of those medical terms can be divided into three basic word elements, right? Prefixes, roots, and then suffixes. And if you're familiar with those basic elements, then sometimes you can guess what a word means. So for example, thermal, this word means something related to heat, right? The word root is therm, and therm really just means heat, right? That's the definition for the root. So if you know what therm means, then when you see thermal, you can deduce what the meaning might be. Tonsillitis, so tonsillet, that's the root of the word, and that means the tonsil, right? Well, know where the tonsils are. And litis, that means inflammation. This means inflammation of the tonsil. Next one, pericarditis. Now, I probably should write out the entire word. So pericarditis. Peri means around, right? Card is the root, which means the heart. And itis, we mentioned that means inflammation. So pericarditis refers to the inflammation in the thin sac-like layer surrounding the heart, which is called the pericardium. So pericarditis is inflammation in pericardium. Okay, so this is one technique that you can use to deduce the meaning of a word that you don't know. Now, second is use context, signal words, or phrases. I have some examples here. I highlighted the word that I want you to guess. So the first word is heinous. Planting a radio bomb on a crowded airplane, spraying a restaurant with bullets, and holding hostages for years are typical of the heinous acts of terrorism today's world fears. So, you can tell that this sentence describes some of the acts, right, done by terrorists. And based on the context of the sentence, you can probably tell that heinous is something bad, right? It definitely has that negative association with it. Heinous means wicked, atrocious, very bad, horrible. So that's the meaning for heinous. And the second example, David is normally loquacious, but yesterday he was almost silent. With the word but, you can guess that loquacious is going to have an opposing meaning to silent. So you know what silent means, right? So loquacious is going to be the opposite. So loquacious means talk a lot, very talkative. Okay? All right. Now, TEAS may give you some sentences from a passage and ask you what kind of figurative device is used in this sentence. So I have listed the information on the major types of figurative language. Okay, the first one is simile, a figure of speech involving comparison of one thing with another thing of a different kind, used to provide a description more emphatic or vivid. And it usually employs words such as like and as. Some specific examples. She is as brave as a lion, right? So you can see there is the word as. He is as cold as ice. Right? Again, there's as here. So it's a comparison, right, between a person or person's personality with some object, right, or some animal. Next one is metaphor. So metaphor is used to make a comparison, similar to simile, between two things that are not alike but do have something in common. Now, this is a comparison that does not use like or as. So this is going to be very useful information for you to discern the two types of figurative devices. Right? If you see like or as, that means it's a simile. If you don't see those, and there's a comparison between two different things, then that's going to be a metaphor. This is a quote from William Shakespeare. All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. All right, so there's a comparison between the world and a stage, between men and women and players on the stage. Next example, you were the light for me to find my truth. I just want to say thank you. So again, this is a comparison, right, between a person and light, and the light to guide someone to the right direction. Next type of figurative language is personification. So this is a special type of figurative language where human qualities are given to something that's non-human. Okay? So you can see the first example here. Our vacuum hums a happy tune while it cleans. Now, vacuums cannot sing, right? They're not humans. But in this sentence, it says the vacuum is humming a song, a happy song. So that's given the vacuum human quality. And the next one, the thunder was grumbling in the distance. Now, thunders cannot grumble, right? Only humans can. That's a human quality, right? So it's given this human quality to the thunder. So it's personifications. Okay. All right, now on this slide, we're going to compare denotation and connotation. Denotation is basically the dictionary, the literal meaning of a word. Okay? So there's no trick there, just straightforward, just the literal meaning. Now, the connotative meaning of a word usually has some associated feelings or ideas that people connect with that word. It can be positive or it can be negative. Okay. Now, I have a very simple example here. The word blue. Okay. So the denotative meaning of blue would be the blue color. Right? Normally, we use blue to refer a particular color. But the connotative meaning can be very different. When we say, oh, I feel blue, that means I feel sad, right? So you can see there is a feeling associated with the word, right? Feeling sad or feeling really down, that's the connotative meaning for the word blue. There are some more examples. This kind of shows you that some of the words can definitely be used to have a positive association or a negative association. So let's look at the word use, right? That's very neutral. If I say employ, that has a positive association. But if I say exploit, that usually has a negative connotation. Saving, neutral. Thrifty, that's positive. But stringy, that's negative, right? Somebody is really cheap. Or, the last one, selective, that's neutral. Meticulous, that's very positive. But picky, that has a negative connotation. Okay? So you guys can go through these words and really kind of try to understand the positive and negative connections of these words. The second part is about the denotative meanings of words. So on TEAS test, you may see questions like, which of the following parts of speech would be included with a dictionary entry for the word and then a specific word from the passage. The second question is, which of the following phrases helps to define the term? So it could be a word, it could be a phrase. Right? We talk about techniques that we can use to figure out what the meaning of a word is, what the definition is. So we're going to focus on the first part. So what are parts of speech? These are the common parts of the speech which really kind of indicate how a word functions within a sentence. We may have a noun. A noun could be a common noun which used to identify any of a class of people or locations or things. Or we may have pronouns. So pronouns are the names of a particular person, place, or organization. So here are some examples of a common noun. So you can see watermelon, onion, purse, classroom, school, carpet, poster, right? So those are all examples of common nouns. How about proper nouns? Peggy, right? That's a specific person's name. Tucson, again, a specific location. And United Nations, it's an organization. So those words are going to be pronouns. The next group is verbs. So a verb is a word used to describe an action, a state, or an occurrence. Walk, run, jump, move, shake, read, fall. So all of those are verbs. Next one is adjective. So adjectives are usually used to name an attribute added to or grammatically related to a noun to modify it or describe it. So remember, adjectives are used to describe the noun or modify the noun. So it usually tells you, a specific attribute of the noun. Okay, so for example, enormous, right? I can say this is an enormous house, right? So you can see that enormous really kind of gives you an idea what a house looks like, right? And the attribute of the house. A lot of words can be adjectives. For example, color, like yellow, right? Or something related to quantity, such as many, few, millions, or specific numbers, like 11 or 3. Last one is adverb. So adverbs are words or phrases that modify or qualify an adjective, a verb, or other adverbs or a word group. Okay. So here are some examples. She swims well, right? So well qualifies swim, right? Describes how she swims. He ran quickly, right? Quickly describes how he ran. He spoke softly. So again, softly describes spoke. She plays the flute beautifully. So beautifully describes how she plays the flute. So all those words are adverbs. All right, now let's practice. So you have 45 seconds to read this passage, and then I will move on to the next slide where you will see some questions. All right, let me start the timer. There you go. All right, now I'm going to move on to the first question. So you have 30 seconds to answer this question. Okay, so there's a sentence in the paragraph. It says, someone was doing her best to keep up a distracting stream of chatter during the brief flight. So, which of the following figurative devices is used? So, hopefully, you identify the part that employs a figurative device, which is distracting stream of chatter. So, the correct answer is B. So, this compares two different things, right? Stream of water and, the mom's talk, the mom's chatter, because you're comparing two different things. So that's either simile or metaphor. But this sentence does not use the word like or as, right? So it will be metaphor. So correct answer is B. It's from the book Cathedral of the Wild. I like the book because it describes all kinds of adventures that the author had. It's very interesting. So in this paragraph, the author described an accident that he and his parents had when he was young. So they were in a two-engine plane. They were flying to a nearby destination, but during the flight, something happened, right? So besides the author and his parents, his mom's best friend, Anthea, was also on the plane. But Anthea obviously was a nervous flyer, right? So mom had to keep her distracted by, constantly talking to her. That's what the stream is used to describe, right? Using that metaphor. So correct answer is B. Next question. Okay, in this particular sentence, and Anthea was covered with guts and feathers and a bit of a wing, which clung to her head like an awkward head. So in this sentence, which of the following figurative devices is used? This compares two different things, right? A compilation of guts, feathers, and wing, and a head. So all those parts of a bird that clung to her form a structure that's almost like a hat. So you're comparing two different things. Again, that's either simile or metaphor. But in this case, the word like is used. Right? So the correct answer is A, simile. Next question. If the author describes the plane engine this way, the engine sound mesmerizing sound, which of the following figurative devices is used? So in this case, the engine is saying a sound, which is a human attribute, right? Engines are non-living objectives. They can't really think. So this is giving human traits to a non-human being object. So this is personification, C. Okay, last question. in order to find the correct definition for impaled, you have to read this part very carefully and maybe use a little bit of imagination, imagining what it looks like when that accident happened. So here is the key information. Wind was now roaring through a huge hole in the cockpit window. So there was a hole in the window. Something probably hit the window, right, and broke the window. The pilot was conked out in his seat. So the pilot passed out. His lap full of shattered glass. His temple impaled by the beak of a woolly-necked stork. Its severed head and neck plastered limply to the side of his face. His temple impaled by the beak of a stork. So, a stork is a pretty large bird, and the beak is, a pretty hard structure. And the beak is usually pointed, right? When you think about birds' beaks. So this could be cut, right? This could be pierced or speared. Now, it's not going to be about colors, right? The temple discolored, that really doesn't make sense, right? So the head and the neck are kind of hanging around on the side of the face. So somehow, the beak kind of allows the head, the neck to connect to the pilot's head. So it's not going to be cut, right? If it's cut, then the head and the neck are not going to be, hanging limply to the side of the face. So the correct answer is C. Impale means pierce, spear. It's going to be a sharp object, right? Pierce into something. So correct answer is C. All right, this is another paragraph, and read this first, and then we'll move on to questions. Okay, question 1. Okay, and after all, it's very rude to eavesdrop. So in this sentence, which of the following figurative devices is used? Now, there is no comparison, right? So A and B are not the correct answer. So this means the literal meaning of the word, and connotation means there's negative or positive feelings or ideas associated with a word, right? This is more about association. So the correct answer is D, because every time people use eavesdrop, it has that negative connotation, because that implies that that person is listening in secretly, right, when that person is not supposed to do it. So negative association, and D, connotation, is the correct answer. Next one. All right. Which of the following words has a positive connotation for important in the second paragraph? We all know what important means, right? So you need to find a word that has a similar meaning, but it's going to have a positive connotation. So the correct answer is A, essential, which is right here in the second paragraph. So essential just means very important and necessarily needed. So the correct answer is A. Okay, next question. Okay, question 3. The author asks, just because someone has a cell phone doesn't make it okay to talk rowdily on it in public. Which of the following figurative devices is used in the sentence? So first of all, there's no comparison between two different things, right? So it's not simile or metaphor. And it doesn't involve any non-human objects having human qualities, right? So C is also not correct. So the correct answer is D. Now, this question is pretty easy, but if we make it a little bit harder, if I switch C to denotation, then the correct answer is still D. And that's because when you read the first paragraph, you can definitely feel that kind of negative opinions, right, the author has for people who are using cell phones, in public, but talking very loudly on the phone, right? So in this sentence, loudly means very noisy, very disorderly, just general a negative connotation associated with this particular word. The correct answer is the connotation, and it's a negative connotation. So in this case, the context of the paragraph is very important. The paragraph is about why people should not talk loudly in public, because other people might not want to hear about your conversations. Last question. Okay, so this question asks you to identify what part of a speech it is for the following words. So the first one, bombard. This word means attack with shells and bombs. So this is a verb, and you can see there's a metaphor there, right? When people talk very loud in public, they're not really attacking others with weapons, with bombs. So this is definitely a use of metaphor. Number 2, handheld. So it's over here, handheld devices. So handheld is used to describe devices, which is a noun, right? So devices, this is a noun. So handheld is an adjective. It's used to describe a noun. Number 3, essential. We learned that essential means important, right? Necessarily needed. So this is also adjective, right? So it describes cell phones. So for some situations, cell phones are needed, are essential. So adjective. Number 4, routely. So routely is used to describe a verb, right, which is talk. So routely is an adverb. Oops, adverb. Last one, society. Society is a common noun. Okay, we just finished another reading lesson. Good job, everyone. See you next time.